Hello students, in this poetry lesson we are going to study and analyze the poem The Tale of Custard the Dragon written by Ogden Nash. In this lesson we are going to appreciate the form of the poem, that is a ballad, the use of poetic devices like alliteration, simile, metaphor, poetic license, etc. that are used by the poet to enrich his creative writing. Also to understand and appreciate the aesthetic appeal that is employed in dealing with the universal subject matter, appearances are deceptive. The chapter is divided under the following subheads: brainstorming, introduction that reflects on the title of the poem as well, the points of explanation along with the literary devices employed in the different stanzas of the poem, followed by the theme, message and the rhyme scheme in the poem. The Tale of Custard the Dragon. As the title suggests, there is a sort of satire and a humor in it. A creature that is ferocious, fierce, brave, powerful and many more adjectives you can think of the moment you hear the word dragon is in a stark contrast to the dragon that is being described in this particular poem. The form of poem is a ballad which narrates the tale of heroism and courage of the pet dragon of Belinda. However, the tone of the ballad is a humorous one. Belinda lived in a little white house with a little black kitten and a little grey mouse and a little yellow dog and a little red dragon and a really truly little pet dragon. As you can see, students, there is a repetition of the consonant sound L in the first line of the stanza. Whenever a consonant sound is repeated in the adjacent words or the words that are closely linked, it is known as alliteration. It lends a musical quality to the poem. And also, the word little has been repeated 6 times in the stanza and some other stanzas of the poem to emphasize the setting of the poem, to describe the house of Belinda and the little pets she owns. The last line, and a really truly little pet dragon. As you can see, the words really and truly have been recoined, the spellings have been recoined by the poet in order to maintain a rhythm and lyrical quality in the poem. This is known as poetic license. So in the first stanza itself, we see the use of alliteration, repetition and poetic license. Now the name of the little black kitten was Ink, and the little grey mouse, she called him Blink, and the little yellow dog was as sharp as mustard, but the dragon was a coward and she called him Custard. We have the repetition of the word little, of course, and the little dog, the little yellow dog has been compared to mustard, and this is the usage of a simile. When two unlike things are compared using like or as, it is known as a simile. Custard the dragon had big sharp teeth and spikes on top of him and scales underneath, mouth like a fireplace, chimney for a nose, and really truly daggers on his toes. So the dragon Custard is a ferocious one. It has spikes on top of him and scales underneath. However, mouth like a fireplace is the use of a simile, and chimney for a nose, daggers on his toes are metaphoric expressions. Metaphor is a comparison of two different objects without the usage of like or as, and here one is substituted for the other directly. Again, we have the poetic license being employed in the usage of the words realio and trulio, where the poet has changed the spellings of really and truly. Belinda was as brave as a barrel full of bears, and ink and blink chased lions down the stairs. Mustard was as brave as a tiger in a rage, but Custard cried for a nice safe cage. I hope students you can pick out the simile, that is, as brave as a tiger in rage, as brave as a barrel full of bears. The consonant sound b in Belinda, brave, barrel, bears is repeated for the rhythmic effect, so it's an alliteration. Ink and blink chase lines down the stairs is an exaggeration used by the poet. Belinda tickled him, she tickled him unmerciful. Ink, blink and mustard, they rudely called him Percival. They all sat laughing in the little red wagon at the Realio Trulio cowardly dragon. Again, there is a repetition. Belinda tickled him, she tickled him, unmerciful, to emphasize that he was really tortured and he was laughed at by the inmates of the White House. Ink, blink and mustard, they called him Percival. The use of Percival is an allusion by the poet. An allusion is a poetic device where the poet suggests or indirectly hints at an idea, a person, a thing, a mythological aspect in history in order to explain the aspect that he wants to explain. And here Percival was one of the brave knights of King Arthur. And of course, I don't need to repeat the poetic license that is being employed in the poem. Belinda giggled till she shook the house, and Blink said "Wick," which is giggling for a mouse. Ink and Mustard rudely asked his age, when Custard cried for a nice safe cage. Belinda giggled till she shook the house is an example of exaggeration. When the spellings of the sounds resemble the spellings, the sounds actually produced as weak, the poetic device that is involved is onomatopoeia. Suddenly, they heard a nasty sound, and Mustard growled, and they all looked around. Meouch, cried Ink, and ooh, cried Belinda, for there was a pirate climbing in the window. So, here, meowich is the onomatopoeia, and window, the spelling of window has been changed to window so that it rhymes with Belinda. And again, the poet has used the poetic license. Pistol in his left hand, pistol in his right, and he held in his teeth a cutlass bright. His beard was black, one leg was wood. It was clear that the pirate meant no good. So, the pirate was a frightening and scary appearance, and he had come to harm the inmates of the house. Belinda paled, and she cried, "Help, help!" But Mustard fled with a terrified yelp. Ink trickled down to the bottom of the household, and the little mouse blinked strategically mousehold. Here, the expression terrified yelp is a transferred epithet. A transferred epithet is a poetic device where the adjective that is used with the noun doesn't directly mean describing the noun that is being mentioned in the expression. Rather, it means the whole or the part. For example, in the line, but Mustard fled with a terrified yelp. The yelp is not being described as terrified. The adjective terrified shifts to Mustard. It is Mustard who is terrified. So this is the employment of a transferred epithet. But up jumped Custard, snorting like an engine, clashed his tail like irons in a dungeon. With a clatter and a clank and a jangling squirm, he went at the pirate like a robin at a worm. So again, clatter, clank, jangling are the usage of onomatopoeia. These are the metallic sounds produced when the chains or metal objects are lashed against the floor or a wall. Snorting like an engine, like a robin at a worm, is the usage of a simile. The pirate gaped at Belinda's dragon and gulped some grog from his pocket flagon. He fired 2 bullets, but they didn't hit, and Custard gobbled him every bit. This display of bravery and courage by Custard was immense, and all the boasting that Ink, Blink, Mustard and Belinda had been doing to mock at Custard had now failed, at least temporarily, till they were frightened. Belinda embraced him, Mustard licked him, no one mourned for his pirate victim. Ink and Blink and Glee did gyrate around the dragon that ate the pirate. But presently up spoke little dog Mustard, I would have been twice as brave if I hadn't been flustered. And up spoke Ink, and up spoke Blink. We would have been 3 times as brave, we think. And Custard said, I quite agree that everybody is braver than me. And then these creatures who were frightened by the pirate and rushed to safe hideouts, they have just surfaced up and started boasting about their bravery. And the Custard, the dragon, who was a quiet and humble creature, he said that he agreed everybody was braver than him. Belinda still lives in her little white house with a little black kitten and her little grey mouse, and her little yellow dog, and her little red wagon, and her realio trulio little pet dragon. Belinda is as brave as a barrel full of bears, and Ink and Blink chase lions down the stairs. Mustard is as brave as a tiger in a rage, but Custard keeps crying for a nice safe cage. Again, the employment of simile and exaggeration lent aesthetic appeal to the poem. Coming up to the theme of the poem, Custard, who was considered to be a coward, displays immense courage and bravery when the pirate enters the house, and so it highlights that the appearances are deceptive. The assessment of people done by themselves and by others at times can be faulty. It is Custard who was considered to be coward, poses the real threat to the pirate. So it's very obvious that the message of the poem is that we should not judge people on the basis of the outward appearances. Appearances prove to be deceptive, and sometimes claims too prove to be false. The true characters of a person or an individual is revealed in the times of adversity. Rhyme scheme from stanza 1 to 12 is AABB, whereas the last 2 stanzas follow the rhyme scheme AABB and CC. That's all for this class, children. Thank you.